The live stream has started. Let's play the theme song. This is the Daily Freakout with me, Bobby Freakout. I still don't feel 100% saying that, but we'll get there in the end. I'll tell you, I'll be honest with you, completely honest with you right now. I am somewhat struggling with things to talk about because I don't want to be like every other podcast out there that talks about how the United States is falling into dictatorship and authoritarianism and all that kind of stuff, even though I have an article coming up that is somewhat related to that. And I'm somewhat struggling because you don't want to just talk about what everyone else is talking about, but you want to find stuff that's inspiring, that makes you want to talk about things, and you want to make content that's interesting and fun for everyone and all that kind of stuff. But it's a bit of a struggle at the moment because everything in the news cycle is a little bit depressing, just a little bit. And I am struggling to find stuff that's not a little bit depressing. So that's a little heads up just for the start of the show, to start the show off with a bit of depressing stuff. And I just realized I don't know how it comes across in the recorded version, but in the headphones right now, I probably should have the pop filter in the front of here so that it doesn't pop. But we're going to keep pushing through, and I'll try not to pronounce my P's too like that. Sibilance, I believe that's called. Something like that. Anyway. I had a strange dream, and I can only remember some of it. And part of the dream was being outside, effectively camping outside and watching something on my iPad or a screen of some kind, and that was very nice. And I remember being half awake because there was we had a about 15 minutes max massive storm come through my area. And when I say massive storm, I mean that's what it sounded like. It may have just been a very intense weather pattern or weather situation. And there was thunder and it was raining like absolute crazy, and it half woke me up, and I thought to myself, well, I can't do anything about it now, but that sounds like it might be causing damage. Like, that sounds pretty intense. And I haven't been out to really check just yet, so we'll see how that goes when I go out there and have a check. But I then went back to, I was sort of half awake there, but then I went back to full sleep. And this first part of the dream was really nice, and I remember thinking, oh, that's great. I'm going to try and remember that for the show because that was a nice part of the dream. And then I had a dream where I was working in imagine like a summer camp, school summer camp, classic movie summer camp type building, house, whatever you want to call it. And in that summer camp, and it was a business, so people were coming in, customers were coming in, and we got really busy all of a sudden. And I think I was meant to be sort of control or in charge, as it were. But then all of a sudden I had some people there to help me, which was great. And then I started trying to find the right glass, and I couldn't find the right glass for this drink. And then this woman, probably similar age to me, suggested that she take over as sort of the leadership role. And I was like, yeah, okay, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, no problem. And then I woke up. What does that mean? Why am I having dreams about being incompetent at work? Some people that I've worked with probably would say it's because you're incompetent at work. But I've never felt entirely incompetent at work, and I've always thought that the way I do things could work really well. But for some reason I have these dreams where I just feel completely incompetent. And funnily enough, I then come on here and try to do a podcast where I'm not exactly hitting my stride at the moment. So things aren't particularly great. I'm just changing some light there, and that was really bad for a second. And we're having a podcast that's not going particularly well. It's nothing. The viewership is minimal, And I am very appreciative to at least one person who watched the entire episode, or the most recent full episode on the YouTubes. But it just, what dreams, man? What are they doing? I get why people have studied them and try to interpret them and try to work out what they mean and stuff. Because sometimes you can say, oh yeah, no, that makes sense. It means this. It means this. You're apprehensive about this. Blah blah blah. Or you dream about winning the championship or getting the girl or any of that kind of stuff, and that makes sense. Like that's sort of it's logical. But having dreams about your failings and the things that you're not doing well are very, very frustrating. And speaking of not doing well, I've just realised that I was going to try and incorporate streaming on multiple levels, but I have not set that up. So maybe whilst I'm talking, I can try and do that. You watching any TV shows recently? I just started watching Generation V or whatever it's called, the Boys spin-off. Yeah, Gen V. I literally just last night started watching it, and I've got 3 or so episodes into series 1, and it's actually really interesting. I really like the way they've for some of the characters they've effectively taken their superhero powers from reality type situations. For instance, there's this one girl who is able to shrink down really tiny, but the way she does it is that it depends on how much she eats, which I'm just going to assume is their take on anorexia, in that she vomits and she becomes really small, and like the Shrinking Man, or like the Atom, or what's the Ant-Man for the Marvel Universe. And then when she eats, she gets really big. So I'm assuming at some point in the future, because they've hinted at it, at some point in the series, she's probably going to eat a hell of a lot and become massive, which would be really cool. And then there's another character who's effectively transgender. They can swap between a female version and a male version of themselves. And they can go through life that way, tricking people and that kind of stuff. And then they're talking about how they actually like being both. It's really the really cool aspect was that the character's saying, hey, look, I don't mind being the female version of me and the male version. Like they're both me, and I quite like both versions. And then there's a young blonde girl who's able to manipulate people, and yeah, it's a very, very interesting show so far. Whilst touching on the same kind, or using the same kind of intense, lots of blood splatter, lots of R-rated stuff that The Boys does. So that's a recommendation for you there. But the one I wanted to talk about was Alien Earth. Now, unfortunately, I do believe that Alien Earth is owned and is produced by a certain company who we're all trying to boycott at the moment. So watch the show however you can find it, whatever you feel comfortable ethically with, with the way that you watch your shows. But it is so far a very fun show. I discovered the Alien series way back, it would have been late 90s when I was a teen. And I was going through a stage where I would literally just stop off at JB Hi-Fi on the way home and buy a DVD, buy a movie. And I started building up a pretty decent collection. But I never really got a huge collection, but I got a good collection. And I bought the quadrilogy, the 4 movies of Alien, the Aliens, Alien 3, and then would have been Alien Resurrection as well. And they were great. Absolutely loved them. Really got into them. I'm not much of a horror guy. I'm not much of a creature feature kind of guy. But I really loved the Alien series from a cinematography point of view, in that each movie felt like a... Oi! Come here. Sorry, I just heard a noise. And then some growling. Oi! Oi! Come here. Just want to check, make sure that both dogs are okay. Not you. Okay, you're okay. Asher, come here. I think it might have just been a bird flying into the window. That's what it sounded like to me. Asher? Oh, the suspense is killing me. Asher, come on. Are you okay? Is everything okay? She looks okay, and she's gone a slightly different way to get in here. Are you okay? Come here. Come here. There we go. She's okay. Look, she's okay. There you go. Say hi to the 3 or 4 people that might ever watch this. Okay, you're okay. Yes. Okay. Back you go. Thank you very much for coming in. Thank you for being a guest on the show. I assume it was a bird. We had a bird fly in the door the other day. I've got just a normal sized door, and it's got a veranda over the top of it, yet somehow birds occasionally find their way to fly in through the door. Very frustrating, very annoying. I think one time it happened and the bird flew out again, which meant that the bird left piss and poo along a section of the house, and there was no bird. And I walked in and went, "What is that?" And then walked around going, "What? I don't know what's happened here. What are these stains and things on the floor?" Because they didn't look like bird poo. Like you know what bird poo looks like, the standard bird poo. This did not look like that. Anyway, what were we talking about? Alien Earth. There we go. So the cinematography of the Alien series being that the first one's a creature feature, the second one's like a military go get 'em type thing, the third one is a strange dystopian future type situation, and then Resurrection's its own thing. The fact that these movies just were so interesting and they were fantastic. So from there I've been interested in the alien mythology and series and stuff like that. So Prometheus, etc. Was very interesting. A great take on the story as to where you could go in the future with it and that kind of stuff. And so this idea of Alien Earth being that a ship with alien creatures or the xenomorphs has landed on Earth. That's a very interesting concept. And where they're going now with different corporations being in charge, and the way that big business just tries to doesn't care about humans and just wants their proprietary product and all that kind of stuff. It's very, very fascinating and very interesting. The thing that I don't like about it though is that I think we're up to episode 6 or 7, and we're starting to get too much of the alien. We're seeing too much. The secret to the movies was that we didn't really know what this thing was, and so our imagination made it even bigger and crazier than what it really was. And now we're starting to see almost the alien as a pet, and it's like, oh god, that just makes it a little bit frustrating in that the alien is less scary now, and it doesn't have that same sort of intensity to it, which is a bit of a shame. But I'm still going to keep watching and go through for the end of the series, because it is pretty good. The one thing that I am really enjoying though is this Amelie style haircut. There's something about, I'll spoil it a little bit. The character on the right, the girl character that you can see there, whose name I cannot remember. I know her character's name's Wendy, I think. But she's sort of our main character. But she is a small child in a adult robot body, effectively. And so they've given her this little bob haircut to make her seem more childlike. I assume that's why they've done it. And it's fantastic, because that haircut is for some reason, who knows why, it is such an innocent, nice, inoffensive looking haircut. I'll just bring it back up again. Her brother, which is the guy with the torch on the other side of the image if you're watching this, has just scruffy, normal hair. It's not anything in particular. But he is like an adult. You don't feel like or think of him as a child. And there's a few of these characters that are children in other bodies, and they act very accordingly, and they're doing a really good job of that. And this main actress, who if I'd done the proper research would have I'd have that written up ready to go. She is playing it very well in that she is a child in an adult's body with superpowers almost. But that haircut is just fantastic for some reason. I don't know why. It's like when you watch Amelie and you just go, there is something about that haircut that just really suits. And it's the Amelie haircut pretty much. It's a style of bob. Especially when you see, I think it's Audrey Tautou, I think that's her name, that played Amelie. When you see her in other movies with long hair and stuff like that, even though you go, oh yeah, that hair suits her, you're still just like, wow, that bob haircut really made that character somehow, who knows. Now would be a good time to play a record, but I don't have that set up because this is an incredibly unprofessional show. So we're going to quickly move straight to our next article, our next topic of discussion, which is the White House outlines TikTok deal that would give US control of the algorithm. This is, I don't know, it's not just about the United States for me, this kind of thing, or this situation, or this headline, this news article. For me, it's social media and the internet in general. I feel somewhat lucky and somewhat glad that I remember TikTok before it was owned by Meta. Sorry, not TikTok, Instagram, before it was owned by Meta. I remember a bit of MySpace. I was never big on MySpace. I never got right into it, but I definitely enjoyed it for a time. My first band that actually made it anywhere, and by that I mean we just recorded an EP and that was about it. We were on MySpace, and I liked the fact that we were doing that, and I feel like today's bands have such a great opportunity to build their own followings and all that kind of stuff, and fan interaction and all that kind of stuff. But where does the power or the control of these social media things, apps and websites and things, where does it come from? Where do we draw the line as to what's allowed? I mean, I'm putting things on YouTube and Instagram and TikTok and all that kind of stuff, but without the control from these people, could it be better? Why do we have to have so many of these? Because they stop being social media and they just become another media outlet, but the people creating the media are nobodies who can become somebodies, as opposed to a social media where it is genuinely people for the people, that kind of thing. And if the White House can then get a stake in something like TikTok and control the algorithm, does that mean they're going to start censoring certain things and promoting other things, and then effectively they're going to have such a hand in and a control and a power of the social media that it stops becoming social and it becomes whatever the government wants? This is the same here in Australia. We're dealing with an age restriction coming up, which I kind of understand and kind of agree with, in that there are certain things that children under certain ages shouldn't be exposed to, or it shouldn't be exposed to on such a level. Maybe the occasional nudie magazine or something like that. I remember when I was a teenager, I found a nudie magazine at the park, just like standard story. And it wasn't a big deal because it was just a few images and stuff like that. But now kids can see gratuitous, advanced sexual practices just by doing a few clicks and stuff on their phone, or clicking on a link that somebody sends them. And then who's that person sending it? So I do understand, and I sort of agree with an age restriction. But as a 42-year-old man, if I want to go to rotten.com, I should be allowed to go to rotten.com, don't you think? Or I think so. You just have to have some knowledge as to what you're going to and what you're possibly going to see and how it could possibly hurt you, because it can warp your mind and change it like that. So I don't know. White House contains outlines TikTok deal. It's just such a really, it's a worrying thing that these governments, again, as a pseudo wannabe anarchist, I don't like the idea of government having too much power. This seems like too much power to me. Let me know in the comments. Tell me what you think. Like and subscribe and review and all that kind of stuff, guys. It really would help me out and give me some inspiration. If you've got articles on stuff and comments and opinions and thoughts, I'd really like to have them. I like the idea of let's make this a community type situation where we all talk and we all have a say and we get some interesting takes, because a lot of these podcasts out there try to be that kind of thing but then really fail at it, and I'd like to not fail at it. That would be good. So I'd love to hear from you whether you think governments of any kind should be in control of social media, or whether we should be in control of social media because we are the people who are the social part of it. But I'm going to cut this one short because I really need to go to the toilet. I always forget to go to the toilet before I start these. But yeah, thank you very much for listening and watching. If you've made it this far, you really are a very small group at the moment. And when I say group, I mean less than 5 people. But I'm going to keep practicing, trying to keep doing it, keep getting better at it. It's like stand-up comedy. You can't practice it by yourself. You have to actually put it out there and do it. So with your help, I can have a job where I talk to a camera all day from my lounge room or from my spare bedroom. Thank you very much. This has been the Daily Freakout. My name's Bobby, and I'll see you in the future.